All right, my name is Mark J. Mead, host of the Speak Life podcast. On today's podcast, what we're talking about is the parallel between business and competition, sports even. We're talking about learning how to compete, always competing, and competing at a high level. These three things in business and in life that will allow you to push through any stagnancy you've ever had. All right, welcome back to our Speak Life podcast. It's your host, Mark Mead, talking about sowing seeds today for tomorrow's harvest, constantly sowing into the business community and talking about the things that it takes to compete at a high level in business and to get yourself out of the dirt and into the stratosphere when it comes to your business. Today, I want to talk about learning how to win. Learning how to win in business is an art. It's like anything else. It's like what you do in sports or what you do in baking or what you do in cooking or what you do in sewing. Anything that you're trying to win at, there's absolutely a process and a path for you to be great at it and to learn how to compete at a high level. So that path could be different for person A, person B, or person C. But when you sit down and taste cooking from somebody who knows how to cook, you go, that fool knows how to cook. And you don't question how they got there. You just know they know how to cook. And so when I think about winning at a high level, there's three levels to learning how to win. And so I was listening to the NBA playoffs post conference of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Chris Finch, the coach of the Timberwolves, was talking about competing. And now at this point in the playoffs, they're mowing down people. They had just swept the Suns, who no one thought they'd sweep, and they're mowing down teams. And he says the first step to learning how to win is you have to learn how to compete. And so I thought of that, and then I thought about my insurance journey. And I remember going through this process of like, I had been in sales, but I wanted to be great at this insurance sales. I didn't understand the dynamic just yet. There was a difference between where I was coming from, which was the mortgage business, and where I was going to, which was the insurance business. What was the difference? The difference in between the sales process was what I struggled with immediately. In the mortgage business, I had a 3, sometimes to a 2 to a 6 week close cycle. And I had the ability to talk to the client a multitude of times, get to win the client, get to know the client, and I learned that over a 2 to 6 week time period where I could help deals get to the closing table and fund. In the insurance business, you're going into the house. Back in the day, we do a lot of stuff over the phone now and virtually, but back in the day when I was in the field, you go into the house and you meet with the client and they have to make a decision that day. And you had to be good at getting all the information and what we call in-home sales and getting everything teed up. And there's a lot of personal information that you're getting. And you're getting Social Security numbers and banking account numbers and personal health information and all these things. Now, you're a licensed professional, so you're able to go out and do these things, no problem. But that was like very uncomfortable for me because I'm so used to being able to elongate it. And then to crunch it into 45 minutes, I had to learn a process. Getting on the phones and talking to the clients and booking appointments, there was a process. You can't just call up the client willy-nilly and say, "Hey, Mary, this is Mark Mead. I'm calling you about the insurance you requested. When are you available to meet?" Good luck. Good luck with that phone script. And so I had to learn the process. Going up to the door, I had to learn that there was a process even to getting into people's homes after they booked the appointment with you. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's not. And these are techniques of in-home sales. But in order for me to make a lot of sales, help a lot of families, feed my family, I had to learn how to compete. This was my process to learning how to compete. And I had to learn that it wasn't black and white and it wasn't personal. The people that decided not to buy or decided to not to no show me or to hide in their house when I was at the door, that wasn't personal. I had to learn that wasn't personal. But I also had to learn techniques to get that stuff to stop. All of that was learning how to compete. If I don't take that class, if I don't put out that effort, if I don't study film on that stuff, my career's short. And I go, that was a tough racket. But that was learning how to compete. The second thing Coach Finch said was, you have to learn how to always compete. Now, that's a different level. You got to learn how to always compete. Now you learn how to compete. Now you got to learn how to always compete. Well, that's a mindset. Learning how to always compete means you know that you're in the fight. You're not learning how to get in the fight. You know you're in the fight. And you know there's a chance you could lose this fight. So now you got to learn the process to competing every day. In today's day and age, where entrepreneurs, I'm talking to y'all, are looking to circumvent and maybe make business simple, I'm not mad at you, but I'm saying, like, before we get to simplicity, can we learn how to always compete? Because that is how you get to simplicity. The fighter that's constantly fighting is the guy who's going to learn shorter techniques to fighting. Think about this. Mr. Miyagi, the guy's a master. He can put you to sleep by looking at you, basically. He could put two hands right here, it's over. He didn't start that way. He learned how to get there. And so we need, like any sport, like any competition, like business, we need to learn how to always be competitive. And the third thing he said was you need to learn how to compete at a high level. Number one, you got to learn how to compete. Number two, you got to learn how to always compete. And then once you're always competitive, once you're always, in the fight, once you know that you're in a fight and you can win or lose and you're competing to win, now you have to learn how to compete at a high level. So let's go back to the insurance business. When I'm thinking about learning how to always compete, I'm thinking about waking up early every day. I'm thinking about making sure I'm on the phones by 8 a.m. every morning, or the mornings that I dial, making sure that when I'm in the field, I'm in my car at 7 in front of my first door at 8 a.m., making sure that I go through my day, I structure the day correctly to get to every single appointment. Know that the last appointment, which is usually the hardest one to go to because so many people want to go home, or the wife and the kids are saying, Dad, what time do you come home? What time are you coming home? That's the most brutal question you can ask anyone in sales that's in a field. What time are you coming home? That's another topic for another day. But all those things is how I learned that I'm always in a competition. Day in and day out, 6 days a week, I'm in a competition. I'm always competing. But to learn how to compete at a high level, now you're not just competing, now you're winning. Now this is where the winning percentages in sports become ridiculous, where you start seeing 650 winning percentages, 700 winning percentage, 737 winning percentage, meaning that they win 73% of the time. That is a different guy, different gal, different coach, different player. Generally, people who compete at a high level and win are leaders. And over time, you do it long enough, you dub the title winner. And so as you're learning all these things, now what was winning in insurance? Winning in insurance was helping 10 families a week, 10 plus families a week at a very high level, consistent activity, consistently helping families. Then you start getting into 13 families a week, 15 families a week, 17 families a week. You start getting in these numbers that people are like, how in the heck are you doing that? Consistency. I knew that had to learn how to compete. I knew that I had to always compete. I knew I had to compete at a high level. Hey, your business, whatever your business is, you need to learn how to compete. You need to always compete. You need to compete at a high level. The rules don't change. The rules don't change in sports. The rules don't change in business. I would love for you to track these three things in your business and start dominating. And I'll give you an example of a movie that I've seen recently, Creed 2. You have Michael B. Jordan's character, Creed, and basically what he has to do is, now, this guy, if you watched it, Creed 1, you realize that he had to learn how to compete. But in Creed 2, we're past that. He's now always competing. The movie opens up, he's boxing a dude. He's winning a fight. Well, very shortly after he wins that fight, the scene cuts to who is he fighting next? And isn't that the way it is when you're on top? You see it all the time in UFC. You see it all the time in boxing. You know, you had Ryan Garcia just win a huge fight against Devin Haney. And guess what? Somebody's screaming for Ryan Garcia's head. Why? There's a lot of money when you make a lot of noise in a promotional fight. So someone is like, I want the belt. I want the attention. I want the money. I want to fight Ryan. I want to fight Creed. Well, this is where we're at in the movie. And Creed is now being challenged by the next contender. He's always competing. And so then you get to this place where we find out that the next competitor is a competitor he cannot avoid. This is Drago's son. Drago killed Creed's dad in the ring. Drago's son has been boxing his whole life, is built like a brick house, and they fly from Russia to Philadelphia to let everyone know that his son exists and we want vengeance. Because if you remember, Sylvester Stallone redeemed Apollo from passing away in the ring. So you've got Sylvester Stallone as Michael B. Jordan's trainer, and you've got this kind of tension that's being built in this movie. And so they fly to Philly and they want to take over and they want to be on the news, and they're like, we want to fight. Well, if you're Michael B. Jordan in that movie, if you're Creed, and that dude's dad ended your dad's life in the ring, you ain't got no choice. You have got to fight. So now this man is always competing. He goes to fight Drago's son. And he gets knocked out, he gets pummeled. I mean, ribs in the hospital, banged up face, ribs cracked, the whole nine. Now it's a movie, so you know where we're going with this. But he's always competing. And when he gets out of the hospital and he gets back to health, what's the next thing that's happening? Are you going to fight? Are you going to fight this guy again? Are you going to fight this guy again? Are you going to fight this guy again? Or is this it for you? I mean, like, you think there's rest? Y'all think you get to this high level in business and all of a sudden you're just on yachts and on the bluest waters in the world. I don't know if it works like that. Are you going to fight this guy, or is your career over? And we realize he says he wants to take on the challenge again. But he goes out and he is training because he realizes this guy's so big, he has to go train in heat. So he's training in unbearable heat so that he can last the full amount of rounds of this fight. And if he can last, then he has a chance to win. And so that is how you compete at a high level. You understand? These two are heavyweights. They're battling. This is at the highest level. One guy loses, comes back to fight again. He's always competing, and he's competing at a high level because he has to fight for the right to be in the ring. He has to fight for the right to hold the belt. He has to fight for the right to have that crown. You have to fight for the right to hold your belt or have your crown. Do not get it confused. There's a process to learning how to win. Number one, you got to learn how to compete. Number two, you got to always be competing. And number three, you got to compete at a high level. When you got to understand that this process is putting seed in the ground. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. And we know how the harvest works. So I'm hoping that as you're processing this for you, for your business, for you, for your journey, for you, for your entrepreneurial aspirations, you're understanding there's no way around this. We got to go through it. Thank you for listening. If you're somebody who's learning how to compete right now, you're in your entrepreneurial journey, you're learning how to compete, let's learn together. If you're someone that's always competing, you understand that thought process. You want to learn how to compete at a high level. Let's talk about it. There's definitely nuance to this thing. I hope this brings you value. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please comment. Let's create a community of people that aren't afraid of the faith it takes to win in business, the action it takes to push through.